Hi, Chris. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Carly. Good morning.
Morning.
Hello, everyone. Capilano University and MSM welcomes you to our Agent eSummit 2020 Live. I am Chirag Mehta, and I'm the General Manager for MSM. We know that these have been difficult times for all, and we believe there could not have been any better way for all of us to get together and keep expanding our knowledge base, get any doubts cleared, and remain confident about the coming future. We had a wonderful session on the 7th April, and this is our second webinar this week. I hope all attendees have a great learning session today. This session will be conducted by Chris, who's the Director International for Capilano University, and Carley, who's the Communications and Marketing Specialist for CIE. Before we start, I know you guys would have done some sessions on Zoom before, but for some of you, it would be a new experience. So we would like to take you through the basic features of Zoom webinar. There are multiple options in the control panel. Please note that this is a webinar and your videos and mics will be inactive during the session. You can participate in webinar by raising your hands from raise hand option present in your control panel, wherever the facilitator requests you to. Any questions related to CapU, please put in the Q&A section that appears in your control panel. For any technical questions, you can put those in the chat box. If your questions are not answered during the webinar, we'll be sending an email with all the details, hopefully which will cover all your questions. We will also be conducting a poll related to CapU and related to some other general questions during the webinar. We request you to participate for the same. Now, handing over to Chris and Carley to start the presentation, and enjoy your webinar.
Thank you very much, Chirag. Welcome, everybody. As Chirag said, I'm Chris Bottrill. First of all, I just want to start by saying that I hope you're all safe and well. It is unquestionably turbulent times and strange times for us all, and we just want to convey our best wishes to you and your families, and hope that everybody is safe and well under these circumstances. Carly, I'll pass it over to you just to have a quick introduction, and then we'll get on with the content and some questions that we're sure you have.
Yes, hi, thanks Chris, thanks Chirag. My name's Carly, as both of them mentioned. I've been with Capilano University for just about 2.5 years now, specializing in marketing and communications. I do have a little bit of a recruitment background as well, so putting that hat on today and chatting with you guys, so looking forward to sharing more information about CAP for you.
Excellent. So what we're going to cover today is, first of all, I'm sure that you probably have many questions about how our response is related to the COVID-19 crisis, outbreak. So we're going to cover those. And then we're going to look at, for those of you that are not familiar, or maybe for a bit of a refresh, about Capilano University, about our programs, about our application process. We'll talk a little bit about living in Vancouver, and we'll talk a little bit about what we suggest in helping prepare your students for when they come to us, and also about deadlines and contacts that we think are relevant to you. So this is kind of what we normally do. I'm usually able to come to India, and I've been there maybe 6 times in the last couple of years, and many times been to Chandigarh and Jalandhar and Ahmedabad and Kochi and Bangalore, and I love to be able to come and meet with you. I think I've met over 1,000 students and their families that have come to Capilano University in the last 18 months to 2 years, and this is what we love doing, and we sure hope we can get back to doing this soon. In the meantime, we're operating from our houses, and we hope that that's going to work today. So as you know, Capilano University is located in North Vancouver. This is what it's normally like. It's not like that right now. But we are wondering a little bit about what your experience is with Capilano University. So if you don't mind, we'd like to ask a couple of questions. So we have a quick poll that we'd like to do, and Carley's going to take over that component for now.
Yeah, so we were just wanting to get a little bit of information from you guys. Just the first question here is, have you ever visited Vancouver before? Yes or no? The second question is, well, I guess we'll wait. Let's see. How many of you have visited Vancouver before? Oh, nice. Okay. Great. Okay, everyone's answering all the questions. Good. Okay, the second question is, have you visited Capilano University before? Third question is, have you ever met Chris, our silly New Zealander over here before? Our character, I would say. And have you had a chance to review the CapU COVID-19 FAQ page yet? So those results are being populated. It looks like quite a few of you have been to Vancouver before. That's awesome. Oh no, sorry, that's no. But a few of you, 20%. Few people, one person has been to CAP before. 6 people have met Chris before. The rest of you are in for a treat for the rest of this presentation. Most people have not checked out our FAQ page yet, but some have, so that's good. Great, thanks for your feedback, guys.
Okay, thank you. Thanks everybody for that. It gives us a little insight to where's everybody at and what's important to share with you today. So as you can tell, we're probably, hopefully you can tell, we're doing a bit of juggling at the moment. These are a few members of our team here, and things have changed in how we're delivering programs and how we're operating our office. But I just want to assure you that our Centre for International Experience is definitely up and running, and there's no changes. We're working through all elements of our operation, admissions and so on, as normal. And in fact, we're actually very fast on our turnaround. So we just want to make sure you know that, and hopefully we're responding to the questions that you may be sending us already. As you can tell, I mean, we're all in this new phase where we're having to learn online, and it's a bit of a shock for us, learn and operate online, but everyone's adapting quickly. The students, if you've got students here currently, they're certainly adapting quickly, and every class in the institution has now moved to online delivery. Now we're trying to keep everybody informed as best we can. We have all the information that is available to us about the changes due to COVID-19 on our website. And if you go to the website, and as we saw just a moment ago, some of you have, but many of you have yet to go there. We have a range of questions that we think are answering your questions, or at least most of them. And if they're not, then we want to know what else you need to know. So what you do is you go to the website and you click on CapU COVID-19 frequently asked questions, and then you'll get this screen in front of you. And this screen has a range of frequently asked questions relating to overall operations of the university. And we have a very, I think a fairly thorough section on questions for international students. This is the list of questions. Now you may not be able to see this on your computer. If you can't see this on your computer, I just encourage you to go to our website, capilanou.ca, and take a look at that site, and you'll click on each one of these drop-down menus and it'll give you a response. Now we update this as quickly as we can. Sometimes it does take a day or two to get it updated because it's something that we have to submit to our IT department. So there's a little bit of a turnaround. So just be patient on some of the answers to the questions, but we are responding through this mechanism so that we at least get most of the questions asked. So one of the first questions, maybe over to you, Carley. Let's go through the international applicants, maybe the types of questions people have, and we've got a few updates for you here already.
Yeah, I think some of the most prominent questions, the big one was whether or not we were even moving forward with summer courses this semester. we can confirm that we will be. It will be entirely online for the duration of the summer semester. There was also a recent announcement to say that one of the questions we have is, if we have a study permit, can I travel to Canada to start in the summer semester? As of March 18th, if your students have their study permit, they are welcome to travel to Canada. However, there was a new announcement from Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada stating that if students receive their confirmation of study permit before March 18th, they actually will be able to complete their program online from their home country, up to 50% of the entire component of the program. Online.
Can I just clarify that point, Carley? This one's an important one for us to relay to you. So I'm going to share a screenshot with you in a second, which actually gives clarification on that point so that you will know exactly what the answer is. What Carley is referring to is the fact that previously the government announced that if you have a study permit before March 18th, you could travel to Canada and start your program. The reality is that most programs are not starting, and certainly for our institution, programs are all online for the summer. Added to that, of course, there are a lot of travel restrictions and difficulty in getting here. So we don't want students to think that they have to come to Canada to start their program. What they can do, and this was just announced yesterday, I have a new slide for you here. What you can do is you can go to the Government of Canada website, and it actually gives you all the information. And there's a special section on international students. So let's read that to you so that you're very clear on this point. If you're an international student who has a valid study permit or approved for a study permit on or before March 18th, you're exempt from the travel restrictions. Now, oh gosh, I may be confusing you before we even start here. The things are changing so quickly. What we really need to tell you is that if you have a study permit, you could have traveled to Canada, but the reality is you can't travel to Canada because there's no flights. So, and added to that, since this statement was put up, the new information is down here in the blue, and this is the really important information. It was just put up a few days ago. If you're in your class, if your in-class courses are being moved to an online format because of COVID-19, your eligibility for postgraduate work permit program won't be affected. Now, what we knew at that point was that was for students that were already in the program, but this is the new information. This includes students who have a study permit or have been approved for a study permit for a program starting in May or June, but who are unable to travel to Canada at this time due to travel restrictions. International students in this situation may begin their classes while outside of Canada and may complete up to 50% of their program while outside of Canada if they cannot travel to Canada sooner. So what they're saying at the moment is if you've got a study permit to start in May or June, then you can start the program outside of Canada. What we have done at Capilano University is we have said that we will do our best to enable that to happen. And we will be notifying you very soon if you've got students, if their program is able to start in May or June. We'll have an answer to you very soon. And the reason I say if it is able to is because we have to make sure there is room for them. Now, if we have to, we will offer a deferral to the September intake, and there will not be a deferral fee. We'll give you a waiver on that deferral fee for the student. So I hope that clarifies the situation for everybody on this particular issue. So if your student is registered to start in May or June, they can now start outside of Canada. But there is a 50% restriction, and basically what they're saying to institutions is you can get them started, students started, but we still expect them to come to Canada eventually to finish the program. Does that make sense to everybody? We'll just go back a step and we'll go back to those questions. So the other big question at the moment concerns IELTS and TOEFL. And right now, most of those centers are closed. So it's very difficult for students to get their IELTS scores. Now, at Capilano, like many other institutions, we are currently making a decision on whether to accept Duolingo as an alternative. And we will have an answer for that very soon. And we will put that on the website, on the frequently asked questions. We'll notify you as well. That doesn't necessarily satisfy the question of will that work for a SDS application? And we don't have an answer for that right now. But what we are trying to do is at least get Duolingo as a alternative for an English proficiency other than IELTS or TOEFL. So please stay posted on that one, and we'll have an answer to you very, very soon. Now, if you've got admitted students for the summer or the fall, we've answered some of these questions here. I have a study permit. Can I travel to Canada? We've addressed this question about deferrals. But again, we have some new information just because of that new announcement. So if I could ask you to bear with us as we change the information on this, and we're just waiting for that to happen. I think those are the main questions. Anything else you can think of there, Carley?
No, I think you covered the big ones, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so let's go to the next one. And we have current international students as well, and any questions your current students might have. So we've addressed things like, can I return to my home country to complete my semester? Yes, you can. However, there are travel restrictions in place, and that could cause challenges for them to come back. And we don't know at this point when our programs might go back to in-person classes. So it's just something to keep in mind. We'll let you know and the students know as quickly as we can. We've got questions such as this, what do I do if I can't work? And this is a big problem for a lot of people generally in Canada at the moment, that they're unable to work. So we know that many students are relying on part-time work, and we're reaching out to them right at the moment. Our department is doing a calling campaign to as many international students as we can reach to find out their circumstances and see how we can help them. But those are the main questions there, I think. Carley, any others?
The other big one is whether or not their postgraduate work permit was being affected while they were moving to online courses. And the answer is no, it will not be for current international students. Their postgraduate work permit will not be affected.
All right. Okay, thank you. All right, so let's take a look at what we are normally like at Capilano. Again, that's just to step back one final time. If you have questions about operations related to COVID-19, please go to our frequently asked questions. We're going to get to the end of this session and have some Q&As, and if you've got more questions, we'll certainly address them at that point in time. Okay, so this is what we're normally like. Capilano is a very social place. We have our Holi celebration every year, which is enormous fun. We love it. Our ground staff don't love it because we've managed to destroy the grass in almost every area that we have this, but it's good fun, and it's sort of part of, maybe give you a little insight to what Capilano is like. As you mentioned before, and I don't think many have had the opportunity to visit us, so we'll just share with you a few images of what we're all about. This is one of our orientation sessions where we normally have students all join us, get to know each other, build community with each other. Our facilities are very modern. This happens to be our main cafeteria area, very important social place for students. We have a unique environment to operate in that we are located on what I think is the best description is we're located on the edge of the wilderness, yet we're in a world-class city. And that's a really unique place for us to be. We have all these trees around. Some of those trees are as old as 200 or 300 years old. When people come to our campus, they typically just get out of their vehicle or bus or or whatever, and they take a deep breath and they they breathe in the fresh air, and it's pretty invigorating and enriching. We're very lucky where we operate. We have these unique locations where students can hang out, and people ask, well, what is it? Is it very cold in Canada? I think most people's impression is that Canada is, a lot of people live in igloos, or live live in ice houses. Not true. We live in normal houses, and we have, but it does snow here quite a lot. And in Vancouver, it's very uncommon for us to get snow in the city, and only once or twice a year does this actually happen. But when it does, it's lovely, and we all celebrate it. Usually what happens is the green grass reappears quickly, and we get people out fooling around in it and having fun. The students will come join us. We celebrate. We have an international orientation, as mentioned before, and we try and build community straight out of the gate. And this is one of our international intakes from a few semesters ago. So we'd like to find out a little bit more from you, if that's okay, and this will help inform us for the rest of the session. So we have another Q&A question to ask you. So I'm going to go to that Q&A and see if you wouldn't mind helping us with a little bit more, and then we'll get on with more about Capilano University programs and other types of questions. So Carley, back to you for poll 2.
Okay. I'm just going to launch it now so you guys can see all the questions. So the first question is, have you sent students to Capilano University before? The second question is, do you have students planning to study in the coming summer semester at Capilano University? Have you seen a reduction in interest to study abroad due to COVID-19? Question 4 is, how concerned do you think your students are about studying online? And question 5 is, how concerned do you think your students are about not having access to university services? And number 6 is, how concerned do you think your students are about finding self-quarantine when arriving in Canada? Oh, and then we have number 7, it's the longer poll. Number 7 is, how concerned do you think your students are about missing out on the university classroom experience? Number 8 is, how concerned do you think your students are about feeling unsafe and at personal risk? Number 9, how concerned do you think your students are about being able to get part-time jobs in Canada? And number 10, how concerned are you about students not wanting to study internationally next year? So we'll give you a few minutes to go through those questions. Got a few more people voting still.
Thank you for contributing to this, by the way. It just gives us a bit of insight. If you, even if you could help us with maybe even that last question, if you haven't got students coming, that would be very helpful. But all this information really gives us a lot of insight to how we can help serve the students and serve you better.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I'm looking at some of the results. We're still, please keep voting if you'd like to, but I'm going to review where we're at so far. On the first question, have you sent students to CapU before? We have 19 people who said yes, 4 who said no. Do you have students planning to study in the coming semester? 70% yes, 30% no. Reduction in interest to study abroad due to COVID, 75% yes, 28% no. How concerned are your students about studying online? 27% extremely, 35% very, 27% slightly, 12 not so much. So mostly concerned about going into an online format. How do you think your students are about having access to university services? Concerned. Extremely 23%, 35% very concerned, 27% slightly concerned. So again, between very and slightly concerned about having access to university services. How concerned do you think students are about finding self-quarantine when arriving in Canada? 52% say very concerned and 19% say extremely concerned. So that would be something that many students are worried about, having to self-isolate when they arrive. How concerned do you think your students are about missing out on university classroom experiences? 50% very concerned, 30% extremely concerned. So high levels there as well. And how concerned do you think your students are about feeling unsafe and at personal risk? 32% extremely concerned, 21% very concerned, 29% slightly concerned. Again, higher between very and slightly concerned. How do you think your students are concerned about being able to get a part-time job? 50% said extremely, 30% said very concerned. Yes, so high level of concern there as well. And how concerned are your students about wanting to study internationally next year? So again, we're getting a 25% and 32% in extremely and very concerned. 4% slightly, 21% not so much, 18% not at all. That's some really great information. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, just want to acknowledge, thank you for your support at Capilano. I can tell that a lot of you have already sent students to us before and have students coming now. So we really appreciate that, and very helpful information to confirm that, you know, there are a range of concerns out there, and we'll do what we can to help students with those. So again, that information, we're going to work with that information following this this session. So thank you very much. Okay, so I wanted to now share a little bit with you about Capilano. Even though many of you sent students, maybe we could just give you a little bit of an update, maybe 5 or 6 minutes on about Capilano, and then we'll go into some of the programs, and hopefully we'll address some more of your questions about, you know, what do we have on offer, and then the very important component is some of the admission details, and then onto your questions and answers. So Capilano is a very diverse university. Now we have a lot of students that come to us from India, but we have a lot of students from all over the world. So I'm just going to share this short video with you about the sort of profiles our students that are here.
Hi, I'm Gabriel, and I'm from Brazil.
And I'm from India.
Vietnam.
From Mexico.
Taiwan. China.
North Van.
From Korea.
Colombia. CapU for me means opportunities, fun and friendship. Community.
My job. Getting an Oscar.
Multicultural.
CapU means communities to me.
A building step for my future.
짜란. 다양한 색깔의 힘.
Chifa. Capilano University means diversity for me.
Explore. Opportunity.
Fun and frolic.
Compromiso.
New experiences. Felicidad.
Learning with fun.
União. Just having crazy.
Hopefully it's not too crazy for everybody, but hopefully it gives you a little insight to the characters that we have here. We are very, very proud of our students, and we love having them around, and it's difficult for us as well right now, not being able to share our time with our students. So Carley, why don't you tell people a little bit more about Vancouver? If you've from the first question, I don't think many of you had the opportunity to visit Vancouver, so maybe you could give a little insight to what it is like to live here.
So yeah, I was born and raised in Vancouver, so I can share a little bit about Vancouver, and I've actually been to India before as well, so I know that it is very different. India is beautiful in its own way as well, but Vancouver is also very beautiful in its own way. As you can see, the oceans and the mountains so close together, and the city, core city, so close to those amenities is just so amazing to have. We feel very lucky to live here. Just going on to the next slide, Chris, we'll just talk a little bit about that. Vancouver is a very urban city. Any cultural experience you can think of is definitely available in the city core. Vancouver is the 3rd largest city in Canada, very high quality standard of living. Top 25 voted, in this stat it says 2018, but I think we get it every year. It's also an excellent tourist destination, amazing outdoor experiences and activities. Believe it or not, you can actually go skiing in one day, and then in the same day actually go down to the beach and enjoy going in the water. So it's a very interesting climate in that way, in that you have the mountains so close by, and then you've got the beaches and the trails and the hiking and the running, all available at your fingertips basically. It's also a very multicultural community. Various different cultures are represented throughout the Lower Mainland. So Vancouver is the core, but then you have the Lower Mainland, which spreads out outside of the Vancouver core, and there are very different cultural areas within that Lower Mainland space. And as well as it's a mild climate. So we do get those few days in the year that are a little bit snowy, but most of the time it is mostly rainy. Actually, we get a lot of rain. It's basically a rainforest area. So, but in the summer, it's absolutely gorgeous, and you don't want to be anywhere else but Vancouver in the summer, that's for sure. It's a beautiful city. I'm biased.
So Carley, tell us what's your favorite activity. If you had an afternoon to spend in the city, what would you do?
Well, I love running, and I also just got a puppy, so we do a lot of we don't run him yet, but we go on the trails and do a lot of hiking for sure. Yeah, especially on the North Shore.
Yes, good thing to do. My dog's getting a little old, so he doesn't want to do that anymore. But very good fun. Okay, so that's a little insight to Vancouver, and let's talk a bit about Capilano. Now, we just turned 50 years old. Now, that's our president, actually, blowing out the fake candles on the cake, but it was an important celebration for us. This was one of our first classes 50 years ago. And in those days, students used to have long hair and beards, and well, not all of them, but many of them had, long hair and beards and all the rest of it, and used to hang out in jeans and casual clothing. And this is 50 years later. As you can see, nothing's really changed. Still got long hair and beards and casual clothing, but actually it kind of speaks to the spirit and character of this, of the university. It is a casual place, but we work really, really hard. We actually are a member of the Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities. And that's important because that means that we've got accreditation equivalent to US universities and colleges. And that's a rare thing for a Canadian institution to have. There's only 3 in British Columbia that I'm aware of that have accreditation with US accrediting bodies. So we're very proud of that. It was hard work, and we have a long cycle of activities to ensure that all of our programs contribute towards fulfillment of our mission, and we evaluate the student learning outcomes all the time just to make sure that the quality of our program is first class. And of course, at the end of the day, this is what we want to get: students that are successful, have a high quality program, and a recognized quality credential that they graduate with. Most institutions will say they're teaching focused, and that's certainly the case for CAP, but we honestly really believe this is very, very important to every instructor that comes to us. It's actually part of our legislative mandate. We are a teaching institution, and we take enormous pride in the care that we take of our students, the way that we engage them in all activities. We have a bit of fun, but we're also really hardworking. It actually is one of my classes from a few years back, and every one of those students did enormously well as they went out into their careers. this is, we also are a creative institution, and one of our key strategic goals in the next 8 to 10 years is to keep building upon our creative side. We have a range of programming such as stage and acting for stage and screen. We put on performances regularly. We have choirs that perform with local symphonies that travel to Europe normally to perform in cathedrals and venues around Europe. Our arts and design programs are world-class. Our film and animation programming is unique and first class. We have a $36 million, fairly recently built animation and film facility, which is leading edge and contributes to the Hollywood North in a really significant way. As I mentioned before, the engaged learning is a really important strategic element of our institution. Our instructors, that's an EAP class, our instructors and our students work closely together. We build a community amongst all the people involved, and we are constantly reevaluating how to teach better. This happens to be a picture of one of my colleagues, Roy Jansen. Roy has a really interesting perspective on how he teaches. Here he is out in the wilderness, and that's him with a picture of a place called Rice Lake and what it's normally like. And this is in the winter when it's iced over. As you can see, the students are a little chilly there. But it gives you an example of the real practical experience that we provide to the students where we can. So not just in classroom, getting out, learning about ecology and so on in real time. And again, lucky to be on the edge of the wilderness, so we utilize that when we can. A very important element of what we do and what we want to be known for is a focus on student well-being, physical and mental well-being. We've signed on to the Okanagan Charter, which is an international charter for health, for promoting health and wellness in universities, and making sure that our students celebrate, are connected, physically engaged, eat well. All these things are very, very important to us, and we're putting a great deal of emphasis on student health, physical and mental well-being. We have a deep connection to our Indigenous communities. We are located on traditional territories of the coastal Salish peoples. And here's an example of Ernie, one of our elders, spending time with students and sharing his wisdom. And we do that every Thursday. You can come and talk with Ernie. For our 50th celebration, we had a canoe carved, and here's the canoe being blessed. And it's very important to us, a very important symbol of our connection to our Indigenous communities on campus. Indigenous communities are where our campuses lie, and that community that exists within the campus. Speaking of community, we have students, as mentioned, from all around the world, and we do our level best to make sure everybody feels part of the Capilano University community, feels together, feels connected. Here is a day that we put on actually our transition and student success division of the Center for International Experience put on about celebrating where everybody comes from around the world and sharing experiences with each other. Ultimately, students become part of the Capilano community, and we do what we can to make sure that they connect quickly. But it's not easy for students, and we're very, very aware of that. We know that when they leave India, they are making a huge leap of faith and a huge transition in their lives. And we know that not only do they have the challenges of coming and learning in a new language, they have the challenge of coming and living in a completely new society. And so we're very, very conscious of that. We're putting all the efforts we can into helping the students be successful. We have a program called a Student Mentors Program. And this happens to be the character in the CapU shirt. There is a character named Cigar, and He is one of our student mentors, and I'm going to share a short video with you about his experience of coming to Capilano and how challenging it was at the beginning, but then how it changed his life completely. So here's a picture of our mentors, and here's a short video on Sagar's experience.
I still remember I started crying 3 days before leaving India. That feel you get when the plane takes off, oh my God. Yeah, that was the first time I was going out of my country, leaving my family was the first time. There's an uncle in India. He told me one thing, that Vancouver is the most beautiful place on this earth. But the isolation that came when I had no friends here. I came to Capilano on the very first day on my orientation. I'm just wandering around the campus and looking at faces, don't know where to go. I used to come to Cap, attend my classes and just going back home. But after joining this ILMP program, the mentorship program, it was drastically changed. That was and is a very big thing for me. When I joined the mentorship program, I didn't want any student to feel like how I felt. So what happened was it was the best mentor team for the year, and CIE got them on order saying proud mentor. That's very precious for me. It's Cap. Capilano is everything for me, because coming here to Canada, to a very different country, nobody knows you. And just because of these guys, I got a chance to showcase what I have. Yeah, I am staying in Canada for now. If I wouldn't have joined a mentorship, I would have been just looking for jobs, and now I'm planning to study more in this thing for student advising. Here I created my own name because of what I have done. There's nothing to do with my family. That's kind of heartbreaking for me while leaving Capilano, that I'm kind of leaving my home. Hey guys, I'm Sagar and I'm from India.
Well, as you can tell, we love Sagar, and it's a bittersweet experience for us because he's just graduated. We love having him around, but it's also, we love to see him go and complete his credential and move on in the world. So that's the kind of experience that we are conscious that students have when they come to us. We do what we can to make sure that they feel engaged. Normally, myself and other members of our team come to India and meet your students before they come to Capilano, and that's our pre-departure session, and we try to make sure that students are feeling as connected as they possibly can. So just a quick summary about Capilano: 50 years of experience, teaching and learning university. We have about 9,000 students. That figure is actually wrong. It says 1,400. We better update this. We've got 2,800 students from 72 countries around the world. And we're going to talk a little bit now about the actual programming, and then we'll get on to admissions and to your questions. So one thing that you probably got is this international study guide. And of course, this has most of the information in a very brief format. It has the introduction piece here about what it's like in Vancouver. It has, the elements about, this is about Capilano University. And then we go on to actual detail about every single program. So as you can see, the list of programs are here. This is probably too small for your screen, but you might recall this, this document. So we have business, communications, legal, and so on and so forth. We tell you whether there's a co-op, when they start, and what the fees are for every single program. Now, I've put this really, I think high quality slide together, which highlights our most important programs. So this one I took a lot of time on making sure we got some really funky animation. So just you just be prepared for that as we go through this. So I guess our main programs are international business. Our NABU program is very popular. Tourism hospitality with postbaccs and TMI and so on. our film and animation programs with the diplomas and with the degrees, and Carley's going to speak a little bit more about these in a few moments. Our arts and sciences associate degrees. Oh, here we go. Our early childhood education. Oh my goodness, I hope that this isn't too earth-shattering animation going on here. Visual communication design, that's our IDEA program. We have arts and entertainment management, human kinetics program, and last but not least, it takes a while, outdoor recreation. So we don't have a lot of international students doing outdoor recreation, but it is a 2-year program. It gets students out in the wilderness. They learn all about sustainability and so on. And so that's a 2-year program as well. And these are things that we're really distinctive to Capilano University. So I'm going to pass to Carley now. She's going to tell you a little bit more about some of these oh, hang on, I've still got the animation going on. This is a mistake. I should have been out of here by now, but obviously I didn't do that very good job there. Okay, so let's go to humanities and social sciences, Carley.
That was a beautiful slide, Chris. Well done.
Thank you very much. It took me a long time.
So yeah, we're not going to go through every single program. I think we'll just highlight a few that are more popular or that your students might have interest in. We do have the Applied Behavior Analysis and Liberal Studies Bachelors. Those are full 4-year degrees. Liberal Studies kind of just means that your students can select any type of programs or courses that interest them to fill out the degree. It's very kind of build your own degree sort of flexibility in that one. We also have those associate degrees that Chris mentioned before. When you hear associate degree, you can kind of think about your student would be completing the degree in association with another institution. So the first 2 years you spend at Capilano University, and if you wanted to complete that 4-year degree, you can go on to one of the other, usually larger institutions within British Columbia to finish the 4-year bachelor. So those are in the arts as well as the sciences where you'll find our associate degrees. We do also offer engineering certificates and diplomas. And then in our education, health, and human development faculty, we do have our early childhood care and education diploma as well as bachelor degree. Interesting thing about this program is Capilano University does have the top early childhood care facility in British Columbia on our campus. So a lot of the students are able to complete their practicum on campus in the facility, which is really nice. Also, music therapy is the only program in Western Canada, so that's unique to Capilano as well. Then we have our School of Motion Picture Arts, our Motion Picture Arts Bachelor program, short for MOPA. MOPA is short for that, is really, really popular as well. And then we have our 2D, 3D animation diplomas, which do have a portfolio component to think about. So your students would need to submit samples of their work as part of that application. School of Performing Arts, we have our jazz studies, our music diploma. Music, when you see music, it does mean classical music, as well as acting for stage and screen, musical theater diplomas. Again, those are, you're going to need to do an audition for those programs. So you'll need to, your students can do those remotely as well. So those are still accessible to international students. And then our IDEA School of Design, Bachelor in Visual Communications, that's a full 4-year degree. And then we have our pathway program. So if you have some students who still need to work on their English a little bit before starting a full program, they can choose a pathway program, which then can go into business or early childhood care and education, as well as arts and sciences. Then we have our business and professional studies. As Chris mentioned before, we have the NABU program, which is really quite popular. And then the regular business program, which you could do the diploma or go all the way up to the bachelor with concentrations in accounting, finance, human resources, international business, and marketing. We have our communications and legal studies programs as well. I'm just going to explain a little bit more about NABU because it kind of does get a little bit confusing. The NABU program can be done in either 1 or 2 years. So the first NABU program is just the 1 year straight. It does qualify for a 1-year postgraduate work permit, and it does not have a practicum component attached to it. The NABU Applied program is the 2-year program, does have a 6-month practicum component attached to it, and does qualify for up to 3 years for your postgraduate work permit. And then if you have some students who are interested in going on to complete a graduate level credential, so not the post-baccalaureate, but a graduate going on to get a master's degree, they can actually do the NAME program. So you can kind of think of the NAME program as that first year is exactly the same as the NABU program. And then in the second year, you're going to start tacking on your graduate level courses. So you'd be moving into the 400, 500 level courses, more difficult, and then go on to complete the master's degree. So that's sort of the difference between the 3 programs. Then we have our School of Tourism, does have the Hotel and Resort Management Post-Baccalaureate Diploma. Also very popular for international students. A post-bac being that you can complete your undergraduate degree and then go on to complete a post-baccalaureate level diploma. Then we have our tourism marketing for international students. And also those are both diplomas as well, which also qualify for a 3-year postgraduate work permit. Then we have our outdoor recreation management diploma, really great for any of your students who want to spend time outside and get an outdoor education. It's a very hands-on program, which is great. And then human kinetics, which you can, for anyone who's interested in potentially going on to do kinesiology down the road. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Carley. So you may well be familiar with the program. So of course, any questions you have, please let us know. We just want to give you a quick overview of the highlight programs, the ones that are most popular, but maybe bring your attention to a few that you might not have thought about before. For example, the Arts and Entertainment Management, which is a 2-year diploma, the Human Kinetics, the Outdoor Recreation, and I just want to clarify a couple of that. At one point, we had previously 2 post-baccalaureates in tourism. We've now made that just 1 post-baccalaureate in tourism and hospitality, and so it's the post-baccalaureate in global tourism and hospitality management. So that's now just 1 program, and we've collapsed it all together. So I think it makes it easier for students and for yourself for explaining, that there's 1 program in tourism and hospitality. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about where the students are living, because it makes a big difference to them. It makes a big difference to their success at the university. Many of the students choose to live out in Surrey. And here we are over in North Vancouver. There's a bridge right here, and it takes about 41 minutes if you travel in your car from Surrey to Vancouver. Now, of course, that doesn't include the time to get into the vehicle, et cetera, et cetera. It's just the time on the road. The challenge is that we often have a lot of backup. And so it usually happens here as we're going into and over the bridge. As you can see, we've added 17 minutes on this particular journey to this stretch of the trip. So if you're going to travel on a bus or a train, use SkyTrain and various other things, it takes an hour and a half to get from Surrey to the campus. And that's obviously quite a bit of time if you think that the students are doing it both ways. That can be about 4 hours of commuting in a day. So it really cuts down on their time to study. That's the route there. And if they want to walk, it will take them 5 hours and 19 minutes. So definitely an option, but not such a good one. I guess you could do your studying on the way. But anyway, not such a good option. It just gives you a bit of perspective on how far it is. So what we encourage is that our students try and live in North Vancouver, and especially in the first semester, if they can live in North Vancouver and get set up, they'll meet people, and it really makes a big difference to their success. We have a residence. It takes 250 students. It's about $4,500 per semester. That's for the whole semester, and that includes a meal package as well. And the meal package is, I think, all you can eat, right, Carley? It's you know a bit more about this than me. What's the package on that one?
It's all you care to eat. It also includes your laundry and free Wi-Fi and all your amenities. So you don't have to, your students don't have to worry about paying bills or having additional stresses in terms of organizing their groceries and their life that way. It's all just taken care of.
Yeah. So here's just a few images, students getting set up, starting out in their new place, what the accommodations look like, and so on and so forth. We'll tell you a little bit about applications and admissions, and then we'll move on to your questions. So you can find online all the specific admission requirements for every program. The English requirements are in the International Study Guide. Generally speaking, it's 6.5 with no band under 6 in IELTS for most of our programs. That's the full admission to academic programs. The NABU program is now a 6.5 with no band under 6. The post-baccalaureate in tourism, global hospitality tourism, is a 6. And the TMI, the Tourism Management for International, is a 5.5. We generally obviously prefer if the students have higher English proficiency, it's better for them, they'll have more success, that's the students that we prefer, but this is the basic levels for students. As I mentioned before, we are looking at Duolingo at the moment as an alternative, and we will provide you that information as soon as we have it, is if we are accepting Duolingo, and it will probably be about a 110 Duolingo for access into what would normally be a 6.5 IELTS. Duolingo, if you don't know about it, it's easy to access. It's an online evaluation. It takes about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour is our understanding. It takes, it's about $50 US. And the students actually have to do a series of evaluations online and prove their identification. And we think it's a good alternative under the current circumstances. So we will give you information on that as soon as we have it. The application deadlines for the fall are May 31st, and then the deposit is June 30th, and registration will be in the first week of July, tuition on August the 24th. For the spring, at this point, we're looking at October the 15th, with October 31st deposit, registration the next week. So we've really pushed these application dates out as far as we can. The short answer is, if you want to bring students into our fall semester, we are open. There is room in most programs, and we welcome your applications. Now, the question about submitting an application without an IELTS is one that we're honestly grappling with at the moment. We suggest that you get the application into the and submit it through EPBS. We are suggesting that you put a blank sheet of paper for the English proficiency at this point in time. The student will only get an ACCLED, an acknowledgement letter at this point in time, but at least we know they're there and we can keep an eye on that. So we encourage them to, and we encourage your applications now, and as soon as we have an answer on Duolingo, we'll let you know. We know that that doesn't apply to SDS yet, but we are looking at how we can find alternative ways around that. For some of the programs, they have particular application deadlines, and those where they require, for example, an animation, a portfolio, visual effects or music or jazz studies. They require a portfolio, or they require an interview. So some of those programs have earlier deadlines, and again, please just look to the website to get information on those things. If your student has a GPA of above 2.5 in several of the programs, we can accept them directly. And if they're under 2 in many of the programs, we can decline them automatically. That at least gives it a clear answer. Where it takes us a little bit more time to get an answer to you and the students is when their GPA falls in the 2.4 range. And that's because it goes to the department for review. And so it's a little bit out of our hands for a while. And so we certainly encourage an answer on those applications and the applications that have portfolios and things that the department needs to review. So we keep you updated, but sometimes we don't have, that's a little bit out of our hands. In terms of the applications we can process, we seek to do those as quickly as possible, hopefully no more than 2 weeks. If there are any tuition issues, then we'll refund them, of course. We're coming up to the questions, so get ready with your questions. We have a welcome guide for international students. As soon as they've got a student number, they can access this, and it gives important information to the student for all different aspects of their learning, right down to things like how to be a successful student. And when we do the pre-departure sessions, we put a lot of emphasis on this, and we work closely with the students to make sure that they're really well prepared for their transition to Capilano. Some will still have challenges. We'll continue to work with them to make sure that they do have success once they're here. We have a series of important emails, but really the most important email is intied@Capilano.U. But for yourselves, the most important email is the subcontinent office, and that's where you will do all your inquiries and applications. And we coordinate closely with the subcontinent office on a very regular basis on all those questions. So hopefully students will be arriving at Capilano before too long, and hopefully this is what we'll get back to before too long, and hopefully we can all celebrate successes together. That's our team now. So over to you for questions. I'm going to pass it back to Dakshita, I think. Dakshita, there you are.
Yeah. Okay, so the first question says, are there any chances for deferment?
I just need you repeat the last part of that. Are there any chances for
deferment, deferral for letters?
Deferrals? Yeah. Yes. At this point in time, what we did is we asked before not to defer because we were waiting on that question of could we start the students outside of Canada? And the answer was just given to us 2 days ago by IRCC. Internally, the university made the decision earlier that we would allow students to start, but we had to wait for the IRCC decision. Now, the question, it's not as straightforward an answer, and I must tell you that. What we're doing right now is for the students that are in the post-baccalaureate for global tourism hospitality, we are just discussing with the department how to get the students started. So we're having those discussions right now. We believe there will be an online start for a portion of the program, and then we hopefully will get them to join us in September. If not, then we'll figure out how to move forward from there. For the students that have already registered in arts and sciences, then we encourage you to continue, and they have places then in courses, they should stay with them. For the students that have not registered yet because they haven't had their study permit before March 18th, then we have very high demand right now for the summer. Honestly, students are not working, so everybody's enrolling in courses. And so we've got very high demand. So if we cannot get the students in, we are going to give a deferral letter, or we will ask them to apply for that deferral, and they will get a deferral, sorry, not a deferral letter, they will get a deferral, and we will waive the fee on their deferral to the fall. So however it works, we will make sure that the students get started either now or in the fall, and we'll take care of the deferrals for them. I hope that answers the question.
The second question comes up. So Chris, can you please let us know more about the medical insurance for international students?
Okay. If a student is starting now, what we normally do is we ask them to get we ask them to get our GuardMe insurance, which is a temporary insurance coverage. Obviously, if they're not here, they don't need that temporary medical insurance coverage. If they are here, then they automatically transfer to MSP after 3 months. And but if by any chance they need an extension, they can do that extension, and they need to contact us at the department at inted@capilanou.ca, and we'll help them deal with that extension. But for the most part, students that are here will now have gone through the 3 months, so will be on MSP. For the students that are coming, they won't need to have temporary insurance. They may need travel insurance and things like that. We'll get to that when that time comes. But at this point, nobody can join us, so that's the situation.
The next question says, could you please guide us in which bank should, what are the bank branches available for GIC, for international students in Vancouver?
I might need to answer that question on frequently asked questions, because I want to give the accurate information to that question. So we'll take that question and make sure we have a proper answer for you. And we'll get that on the FAQ question sheet on the website as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you so much. The next question says, so there are so many questions on online classes basically. So would you like to highlight more on that?
So right at this point in time, all instructors have moved to online instruction, and all are doing evaluations, examinations, and things like that through an online approach. That's how we've dealt with finishing off this semester, and it's how we're dealing with next semester as well. Obviously, we like to be in front of the students. We love that interaction, and so we're having to adjust to this new format. We have a Centre for Teaching Excellence, and that has been working around the clock, working with our instructors to make sure that everybody is transitioning quickly to online instruction. The instructors use a couple of formats, MS Teams, or they use WebEx as a format for operating their classes. And we are still evaluating how that's going, to be totally honest with you. We are doing a calling campaign to all international students now. One of our questions is, how is the transition to online instruction working for you? But the short answer is, everything has moved to online. All instructors are adjusting to online. And we're doing our best to make sure that they have a high quality learning experience through online. We know there's questions, and we're getting to those questions directly through the students at this point in time.
Okay. So I believe that we have answered most of your questions related to the COVID-19 situation and also to deferrals with the online classes. I see here a lot of questions. So there's one very interesting question, university placement option. So would you like to highlight something on that?
So is that referring to practicums, do you think?
After practicums, like the job opportunities.
Oh, I see, yeah. Not a lot of our programs have placement after the credential is completed. We have a range of services, such as a career development center, which we encourage students to go to and participate in, so that they become well prepared for moving into a workforce. I think the unique characteristic of most of our programs is our deep connection to our industries. So in many of the programs, we give a lot, we create a lot of exposure to employers, especially programs like business, tourism, early childhood, recreation, arts and entertainment management, those types of programs which have very strong practical application to industries, have ready industries. Film and animation is another very good example. And most of those students in those kinds of programs have certainly been our past practice that they get scooped up quite quickly. Other programs that are not as professionally oriented, I would say, such as associate degrees, there's more steps for students to go before they before they find their way into the workforce. So those programs, we just encourage the students to work through the Career Development Center. We try to help them in guiding them, but it is up to them to find their next career steps. And we do what we can for the students as they're with us at Capilano.
Okay, so someone wants to know the schedule, like classes schedule, number of classes in a week or in a day, if that can be elaborated.
Yeah. You know, I think that's a really good question, and I'd like to get some clarity because I can't speak for every single instructor on what they're doing right now. I will get a little bit more information on that. It is my understanding that instructors have scheduled the same kind of class time that they were doing ordinarily because everybody needs to fit in their schedule anyway. That's how the classes are operating. We've always had something called a fourth hour in our class, in our schedule, which means that we have basically an hour and a half of class, and then we have then another hour and a half at another point in time, or we have 3 hours in one class. We've always had something called fourth hour. And so fourth hour is where we design things to be either online or some kind of other interaction, not actually in the classroom. So my understanding is that a lot of instructors are using that full slate of hours now to assist with online learning. But I'll get some more information on that one.
Okay, so the next question says that, you know, any scholarships that we offer to the international students?
Yeah, we don't have additional significant scholarships for international students, except for in sports and athletics, where we actually have, I think it's 15 full scholarships in athletics. So if somebody really excels in one of in a particular field, we have strong soccer, volleyball, and basketball teams. If those happen to be areas that students excel in, those are possibilities. We don't have other scholarships at this point in time. We try to, we have some specific, some general scholarships that Carley can speak to those. But the answer to the question directly is we don't have additional unique scholarships for international students. But Carley, would you mind elaborating?
We have, I think we have one or two, not very many, but on the Financial Aid and Awards page on our website, we do have a list of external resources that international students can apply for scholarships.
Okay. So the next question says, for May 2020, if the student wants to defer, then when should the student drop the courses which the student has already registered?
Yes. If the student is registered and they're in the class, at this point in time, and they want to start, they should start. The issue is that we have a lot of wait lists. So if they're not in the class, then it may be a better option for them to defer. So we're doing an evaluation right now of where each of the students are at, because we just got this information. And if they could bear with us, we will have an answer for them. Unfortunately, we're just heading into Easter weekend, which is a 4-day holiday. So we will be back in the office on Tuesday. So we'll have an answer for them at the very earliest next week. But if they need to defer, however it works, if they could bear with us until that point in time, we will make sure that they are able to defer, and we will give them a deferral waiver, and we'll get them into the next class. If you could just bear with us until early next week. I know that that's a bit more time to wait, and I'm sorry about that. It's just that we're doing an evaluation right now where every individual student is at. If they are in the hospitality and post-baccalaureate program, we'd actually really like them to start now, because that's a cohort program. So we're just figuring out the format on how to start them. So we don't want those students to move at all. It's the arts and sciences students that are the question mark, because some of them have registered and some of them have not. And so if they have registered and they can start, obviously we'd like them to start. If they haven't registered and there's no space, then we'll defer them. That's kind of where we're thinking right now. So we'll just get clarity on that by early next week, and I hope that's an adequate answer. I know it's an important one to everybody, and I apologize that we're taking a bit of time. It's just that it involves an analysis through the departments of where they're at. And the complicating factor is that with no people not in jobs, everybody is signing up to come back to school in the summertime. And we've probably never had as busy a summertime as we're having right now, which is quite ironic, bearing in mind all the other changes that are happening in the world.
Okay. So we have answered almost all the questions. So if there are doubts related anything to admission requirements, then we do have our team over here. Reshma is there, so you can email her anytime on the email ID that has been given to you, and which is at subcontinent1@capilano.ca. And yeah, so Chris and Carley, over to you if you guys want to do a closing statement.
First to you, Carley.
Thanks so much, everyone, for your time. It was lovely chatting with you virtually. Please stay safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, the same from me. We wish you all the best. Stay safe, healthy. We wish you best for yourselves, your family. We are very, very grateful for your support. We hope that we've answered the questions. Please go back to the FAQs for further information, and we'll update those as soon as we can. We know the big questions are deferrals and English requirements. And so we'll get those dealt with as quickly as we can. And we really appreciate all those really good questions today. And that very important information you gave us on the polls. That's given us a very good insight to where your concerns and where the students' concerns are at. And hopefully we can help each other out through these challenging times. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we hope that this session was informative and you took some learning from the session. Thank you all our education agents for participating with us in this exclusive MSM Live e-Summit of Capilano University. In case if you have missed anything, we will be sending you all the details post this session. Till then, take care and stay safe.